This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. It's April 1st, 2015, and today we are doing sun gazing techniques, which is why I have the window shade open, and it's a little bit pale, it's a little bit hard to see the projection back here, but I'm going to close the window shade after I do this demonstration. And let me also just mute everyone's audio so that there is not feedback. All right, and okay. So first of all, I need to go about energetic anatomy. What parts of our anatomy, like if I were your personal trainer today and I was going to say, we are going to be building the bicep muscle by doing this today, and I would tell you this muscle goes from here to here and it helps your arm to move. Well, today what we are going to be doing is working with not only the pineal gland or the brow chakra right up here, but also the crown chakra. And I know that I did non-religious Christ consciousness, and many people here are returning students, so you know what I'm talking about, and I've described it as a marriage or a partnership between these two chakras, which are at 90-degree angles to one another. So the brow chakra is very similar to this picture that you have back here, and I'll enlarge that later, is like a lens that sits in front of our face. And if I were to use this as like the little model, like one of these faces is in front of your face, and it kind of has a lens-like shape to it, like a convex shape rather. But you also have, and so that is coming out of your head like this, but you also have at 90 degrees your crown chakra. And it is this interplay between these two chakras that is crucial, okay? I'm describing your energetic anatomy like if I was describing your elbow and saying this joint is absolutely essential in being able to lift your arm and do a bicep curl like this, all right? Because what I begin to do, and I see the sun is starting to come out, is I entrain my brow chakra. And I use the word, let me also get going on the recording in the background, which are always available on EduCreations. I entrain or attune my brow chakra with whatever I am wanting to share energy with. This is the verb to attenuate, from Greek attenuos. Literally, my attention is reaching out. Like a limb, I am reaching out for what I desire. And so this is reaching out. Your crown chakra is also making a divine energetic connection. So there are 3 places on your body when you are performing this maneuver that you need to be really aware of. Brow, crown, and the base of your spine. This is, I'll enlarge, but sorry that it's a bit fuzzy. Right down here at the base of the spine. And the base of the spine is not synonymous with in between your legs. It is the base of the spine and is kind of more like above your butt crack. And if you can imagine that portion of your anatomy as being physically in contact or making a circuit with earth. You could think of it as touching the grass. You could think of it as a long string or cord that goes to the molten center of the planet. Whatever works for you. This is a lot of personal artistry. And what we are doing here is utilizing our pineal gland. So this is fascinating because this practice is a combination of both the utilizing the non-physical energy centers and utilizing your physical biological structure. Because when we're eating sun, we're eating light. And you know something, even when you drink or eat regular food, this is light. This is all a bunch of chlorophyll, captured light in its journey. And bookmark that concept also. It will come up more in level 2. The concept of light is an emanation of consciousness from the sun, from the star, and from the great galactic center. And if that consciousness is not impeded or acted upon in any way, it will continue forever. But it is the act of being bounced off of a surface or collected by a retina, by an eyeball, or collected by chlorophyll that stops that point of light in its journey of awareness. and also creates the shadow realm concomitantly. This is level 2, but right now I'm focusing on level 1, but it matters because this is the idea that the sun is an emanator of consciousness, and the consciousness that it emanates actually comes from, originally, the Great Galactic Center, the supermassive black hole that is at the center of the Milky Way. There is a supermassive black hole at the center of almost every galaxy that has been observed, or I would say every galaxy that exists, but I'm very impeccable with my language. And it's necessary to keep all of the stars conglomerated, held together, this great presence. So this presence is a consciousness presence, just like the presence of me. My consciousness is what keeps all of the 50 trillion biological cells of my body held together. If my consciousness were not here, these cells in a couple of days would be like, we're not going to stay together anymore. We're going to turn into a pile of goo. And that's called decomposition and death. So our Milky Way galaxy is held together by the presence of consciousness within it. We're within a large galactic-sized being. And this also relates to level 2. That galactic-sized being beams its consciousness non-physically, not the way that physical light travels in a straight line. That consciousness at the center of the galaxy is able to fold time and space, so that instead of having to fly all the way across millions and billions of miles of space, as soon as that great thinker thinks a thought, our sun can be right there, and it goes there directly. It's a short jump instead of a big, long, circuitous route. This matters because if it had to travel all the way across interstellar space before it reached us, a thought would no longer be relevant. The time scale would make it no longer so. It's analogous to if I stubbed my toe in infancy and did not receive the information from the cells at that end of my body that I had stubbed my toe until I was 89 years old and already on my deathbed, that would not be an effective level of communication. And that's what we would experience by the time all of the energy and thought consciousness was broadcast from the Great Galactic Center and wended its way out here to Earth. It would no longer be relevant. It's 89 years too late. The stubbed toe doesn't matter anymore. So these are non-physical, non-local broadcasts of consciousness. And the consciousness also can be solidified into physical matter that we can make into delicious vegetable juice to drink and survive on. However, there's a limit to how many vegetables you can put in your tummy. Even if you eat, let's think of the most nutrient-rich, calorie-dense food we can think of, something like butter or chocolate. You know, a stick of butter is like 1,000 calories. And some of these people that do the Iditarod sled race in cold, frozen Alaska, or extreme athletes, they will literally eat sticks of butter as they are doing this Iditarod race because the body has such high caloric needs. But even if you fill your stomach and your intestines entirely, like you've eaten as much as you possibly can with that substance that's so nutrient rich, it's still not enough nutrients to actually perform these psychic maneuvers. Doing these psychic maneuvers takes a lot of currency. It takes a lot of cash in the non-physical realm. So I've spoken about this previously, the importance of unconditional love. Unconditional love is the frictionless mental state that we occupy when we are in mindfulness and in meditation. And it's like saying, I'm living at the level of unconditional love. I'm not thinking or verbalizing. And this allows me to accrete light. This allows me to amass the currency that it is necessary to spend to activate my third eye. And another way of thinking about it is when my heart chakra is spinning in beautiful harmonious alignment, it also spins around like this, and it makes kind of a little seating, like a little saddle for the consciousness at your throat chakra and then the consciousness at your brow chakra. So everybody gets stacked on top of each other perfectly. And not to leave anybody out, the final little stack is the violet chakra, and this is where you connect to the source. Okay, so the crucial levels of physical anatomy, non-physical anatomy to be aware of: the base, your red chakra at the base of your spine, your brow chakra, and your crown chakra, all right? And while the sun is like, teasing me a little bit here, I usually sit with my legs crossed. I'm kind of perched up on a high stool here, but I sit with my legs crossed and my back straight, even if I can't cross my legs, quote unquote, Native American style. If I'm sitting in a chair, I still kind of make like an area in my lap where I feel like I could hold a bowl. And this is the idea that we are, with sun gazing, filling up our energy centers. Sun just came out. So the first thing I do is connect my spine to the earth. The next thing I do is I connect my crown to the source, or to higher dimensional realms. You could envision it as a star up above your head, or a point of white light, or the source up above your head. And then with my brow chakra. And yes, this is associated with Christ consciousness, but not the Christian religion. All right? This is also associated with Krishna, the blue-skinned otherworldly being of the Hindu tradition, Daganawida of the Iroquois tradition, and many other great teachers who never had their names written in books or songs sung about them, but whom also are associated with this level of consciousness. This is a galactic-sized entity, and it is an unconditionally loving consciousness. When I say unconditionally loving, it's the antithesis of judgment. That's why this is not the Christian religion. The Christian religion is all about judgment, good versus evil. But as soon as you do that, you close down the heart chakra. And this is about allowing energy to flow. So I've made my connection, and I've been saving up energy. You know how come I can do this? I've got money in the bank. It's like saying I worked hard and I saved my pennies and I put them in the bank, and now I can actually do this. The first thing I do is I inhale. When I inhale, I'm inhaling through my nostrils and up into the sinuses up above my eyes, and I begin to feel this bowl in my lap begin to fill up. And at the same time, and I realize this is very hard because I'm using my mouth parts to flap and make sounds so that you can listen to me, I place the tip of my tongue directly behind my teeth, like that. And I kind of crinkle up my tongue a little bit so that it's more comfortable. You find your own comfortable posture. Some people put it right behind their teeth. Some people put it directly in the middle of their palate. You do what feels comfortable to you. This is crucial because it causes a connection of the circuit from your throat chakra up to your brow chakra, okay? And then I inhale. I've just filled up the bowl. Now I inhale again. And now you can see my chest is lifted and expanded. I inhale again. Now energy has come all the way up to here. And now I begin to tilt my brow chakra up and all the way back. And when I tilt it up and back, I arch out my back. I arch up my chest. I send this energy up, out through the top of my head, very similar to an orgasmic energy release, but not similar to orgasm. It doesn't just go up. I send it up and out and bring it back around to the back of my head, and then send it out through my brow back to the sun. It makes the shape of an ankh. And you can ankh your energy out through the top of your body and then back in, oops, that was my piano, through the back of your heart and out through your heart. There's no right or wrong. These are different practices. This is the esoteric practice of making love with the sun. And when I say making love, this is a sacred, divine partnership. Now, there's a level 2 lesson all about sexuality. We need to clean up a little bit our attitude before we can even speak about divine sexuality, because there's so much teaching or preconception here in the social realm about what sexuality is. So when I describe this as a divine partnership or even a romantic partnership, I don't want that to be misinterpreted or colored in the wrong way. This is supposed to be a partnership of equals, of an equal exchange of energy, and it is meant to be conceptual or towards conception, which is different than a lot of lovemaking or sexual activity in the physical realm, which is not geared towards conception, but is just geared towards the exchange of energy. So this has a purpose. This energy going back and forth in a circuit between me and the sun, it has a purpose, and the purpose is consciousness, and conception is an idea. Where do ideas come from? Where do new ideas come from? There's a question in the chat. Let's find out what the question is. Okay. Mike asks, circulating the crown energy back through the brow chakra increases the energy we get from the sun. Yes. And it also prevents the energy from just dissipating. Instead of just being like sending it off like an electrical discharge, like lightning, it's actually taking that electricity, quote unquote, and putting it into a circuit and using that electricity to do some quote unquote work. So I'm using these analogies because Mike is trained as an electrical engineer, and also this is like a good way of thinking about energy. The energy we're talking about is currency. It's energy that flows, but it's not exactly analogous to the negative electrons that make up electricity that makes our electronics run. It is consciousness energy. So consciousness energy emanates from the sun. It comes originally from the great galactic central sun, and when you don't do light eating, it goes into food. It goes into chlorophyll, which is a miracle, by the way. BTW, if you're not aware of it, when plants are photosynthesizing. And that's really what this lovemaking is. Plants are making love with the sun. So now we are in maybe we should describe lovemaking in two different ways. The romantic / sexual lovemaking of human procreation, and the non-romantic but partnership-based divine lovemaking that can be between, let's say, a blade of grass and the sun. And the idea is that there's an equal exchange of energy, just like the lovely tone of A. So we're an even exchange of energy between ourselves and our partner, and there's a mutual respect. And so this is what this is all about, that you as an inhabitant of this solidified world of light are having an exchange of energy with the emanator of all of the light that you've been using. And so there's a couple of things that are happening. Right now, we're exploring this boundary between physical and non-physical. We've done a lot in, when I say we, this culture, Earth's surface culture, has done a lot in terms of creating a firm boundary between the physical and the non-physical. And that boundary is now going to be blurred because humans, in order to activate their psychic powers, need to begin to eat light again. Physical food feeds your physical cells of your body, but light feeds your light body. I'm not the only person who is experiencing this, even though at other times I felt very alone because I wasn't surrounded by people that are doing this. So when I first came to Earth, as a walk-in in 2001, I tried to simply exist as I knew I was supposed to, eating nothing but pure sunlight, and I did not understand why my body was not nourished. And I had to be instructed that this was a transitionary era, that I wanted to come and be like heaven on earth instantaneously, and I did not understand that it would take time for my corporeal body to transition, for Earth's corporeal existence to transition, and for all of the human-sized consciousness that's associated with the surface of the planet to also change, because changing your way of ingesting food is changing your mental program. All right? This gets to be very abstract, and when we get into my experiences on Mount Shasta and Hagartha, then you will understand this is what we're talking about when we get to levels of pure manifestation with the mind. So right now, people are very locked in. You cannot believe in something unless there's a reason, like something that tells you why it can exist or how it can be. So one, like I spoke about, I think in last week's lesson, Therese von Neumann. She was a sun gazer in the 1940s in Bavaria. She was really known as a saint and a mystic, and she was a stigmatic. She bled from her hands and her forehead in sympathetic pains with Christ. And she was also, she was very, Hitler was very threatened by her presence, and he tried to have her assassinated, but unsuccessfully. So she was just this very shining light person, and she, for the last 25 years of her life, ate nothing but pure sunlight. And this is a documented case. And in India and some places in the Far East, there are some stories of yoga practitioners and Aikido masters who got to the point of self-cultivation, where they found that they no longer needed physical food, but that they could subsist entirely on sunlight. So, and you might also have heard of something called breatharians. This is new to me, but the idea is that your breath is where you ingest prana or chi, and I ingest it through this light means, but of course it's perfectly valid to do it through breath. And what I found is the most effective thing is combining both the light ingesting with actual sunlight and the breathing, because, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit in the, feelings of light eating and everything like that, it's most delicious to me when I eat light that's been filtered through the trees. So we're going to get into safe sun gazing practices, but one of the things that I love to do is early in the day and late in the day, my house is surrounded by redwood trees, and the sun slants through them at a very perfect angle, and you can almost see little rainbow iridescences coming like around the leaves, and we're seeing the crossing over of the physical and the non-physical. Physical light, but also the tree's light bodies. Like you might see, if this is the tree itself, you might also see the aura of the tree around the tree and lots of light sparkles and things like that. We're talking about, because light already is only a semi-physical phenomenon. It is not a real physical object like you can hold it and touch it with your hand. It is only a semi-physical phenomenon. But the light that feeds your light body and the type of body that your body is when you're a light body is not of physical light. It's consciousness light. So physical food contains light. It literally contains infrared and ultraviolet light that has been slowed down and made into physical matter, but it also contains consciousness light, awareness. Processed food contains a lot less light than unprocessed food. So an apple contains more light than apple juice. Why is this? You can ask a question, Aurora, why is this? The answer is the cellular structure of an apple is intelligent. It contains consciousness and intelligence. The cells of an apple are not actually mushed together hinky-jinky in a stupid way. They're placed together intentionally by patterns of the universe or matrices of consciousness that govern where molecules should be, just like the flower of life pattern that governs the initial fertilization of eggs and mitosis into cell growth patterns. Those cell growth patterns happen in every fruit and vegetable. And you can see these beautiful sacred geometries, like if you cut a head of cabbage, there's all of these beautiful 5-pointed sacred geometries in there, even though we don't usually call it sacred geometry in this class. I'm using that common word so that you know what I'm speaking about. So the whole point is that when you have raw food that is in its unprocessed state, it contains the maximum amount of consciousness that food can contain. And as soon as you begin to change it and process it, the consciousness gets degraded. So if you want to cultivate your light body and accrete light, the best way to do it is by eating food that is the least processed and has the most amount of light in it. So this means food that is organically grown. Yes, food that is organically grown contains more consciousness than food that is not organically grown. Aurora, why is this? Because chemicals like chemical nitrogen does not have the same intelligence, does not tell the same rich, varied, multi-leveled story and narrative as nitrogen that is available from some rotting, source in a composted, natural, biological source, such as probiotically fertilized compost. Little tiny bacteria make nitrogen available to the plant, as opposed to a chemical in the molecular structure of nitrogen is poured on the plant at a regular interval. One involves the consciousness interplay between tiny molecular bacteria and minerals and pH levels and the plant itself, and is part of a whole ecosystem. And one is the one note solution of, here's some nitrogen, I'm pouring it on your roots now. So the answer is, a plant that is fed with artificial fertilizer contains less intelligence. A plant that is grown under artificial lights contains less intelligence. Oh yes, this is all very true. And so let's say, they don't grow corn under artificial lights, but wheat and corn have been horribly degraded and contain hardly any consciousness. This is very sad. In fact, most of the food of this realm has been horribly contaminated and contains very little consciousness, including animals. The way that animals are produced in factory farming is intentional to have those animals have the least amount of consciousness possible. If you imagine an animal that lives its whole life in a tiny little crate, never gets to move or feel its muscles move, never gets to feel the wind on its face, see the sun, or have to find food or, fend for itself in any way. This is an animal that has no consciousness. And that's, first of all, a very sad, hellish existence for any animal. And also, the food that it creates has a minimal amount of light in it. This is not by accident. This is part of the global conspiracy to reduce human consciousness. It used to be, a long, long time ago, that it was just a challenge just to get enough basic nutrients, just to get enough calories. And it is still the same in some, extremely impoverished parts of the world. It is a struggle just to get enough calories for the basic body to subsist. But really, the challenge to human consciousness right now is not availability of calories, it is availability of light. You can go to the convenience store and it is full of calories, but it is not full of light and awareness. So that means you can eat a lot of calories and not get any ideas. When I sun gaze, I am getting energy for my light body. I'm getting energy for my physical body and my non-physical body. So this is what must be understood. I feed my light body, my chakra structures, the energy that is flowing on a non-physical level with light. And I also feed my cellular structure with light. So when I sit in the sun, more biological things happen than just my skin turning brown. And let's also speak about this. Safe sun gazing practices. I have to get into this and I have 5 more minutes left on this recording. You do not gaze directly at the sun with your physical eyes. We're walking the tightrope here between the physical realm and the non-physical realm. Your physical eyes are sensitive apertures and they must be protected. Just like your tongue. You don't stick your tongue into a pot of boiling hot soup. You let the soup cool down, then you eat it, and it's delicious. So you don't stare directly at the sun with your physical eyes. You stare directly at the sun with your non-physical eye, but you either filter the sunlight by using a hat. So I have this lovely hat that a friend gave to me. You can filter the sunlight by holding the brow, the brim up above your brow like this, or you can place the whole hat across your face and just let the light come through the little open weave. And that's totally appropriate because we are talking about light entering into the aperture that is directly in the center of your skull where your brow and crown chakra meet at that 90-degree angle. That is where your pineal gland resides. Your pineal gland is like a lensless eyeball. It exists as a vestigial artifact of the biological evolutionary process that brought your present state out of a reptilian state. So you evolved from reptiles. Oh my goodness. Yes, you evolved from reptiles. And your brainstem is called your reptilian brain. And the pineal gland is, as I said, an artifact of that level of development that each one of us went through. Reptiles have a little window on top of their head that allows them to sense when it is light and when it is dark. So humans also have a light-dark based circadian rhythm, and science in its simplistic interpretations of things looks at your pineal gland and says this is the gland that is responsible for two things associated in your body. Your response to the sun in terms of your skin, this is when melanin is produced, and also when you wake and sleep, that is a hormone that is produced when you look at the sun, and that's melatonin. So melanin in your skin is produced, melatonin in your consciousness receptor is produced in terms of controlling your wake-sleep cycle. Your pineal gland also produces dimethyltryptamine, which is DMT, which is a transportive substance on the moment of consciousness entering into your body and exiting your body. Your pineal gland is also the seat of your capacity to visualize and envision and imagine. It's a lensless eye. It's a movie screen. It's your inner movie screen, okay? So your pineal gland does a lot of things. It has many functions here. On the one hand, it's your imagination. It's what you use to project. Like, this is a little projector here that I have that projects these images. The projector itself is your pineal gland, and the images that it projects is reality. Which reality do we get to project? What determines which level of reality we get to project? A lot of that answer depends upon what is put into the projector. So the pineal gland is a lensless eye. Light doesn't enter into it directly through here. Light enters into it through neural stimulation, all right? So I have to, hold on a minute. I want to save what I've got going on in the background, and I'm going to pause the recording and change my blinds so that you can see what I got going on in the background a little better. Okay, so I'm doing part 2 here. Very good. I pulled up some good images, and I changed it around so hopefully you can see a little bit better. This is an etching or a scratch board that I did. There you go. And I hope that you can see at the very center here, this is this interplay between the violet and brow chakra. Here, I guess white is a decent enough thing. First I'm going to show you, no, that's not showing up. That's still not showing up. Let's try black. Yeah, you can see that better. So I'm making just a very exaggerated version of the beautiful torus that is at the level of your violet chakra. And that has a combination with these little things come together right here at this center, which is at the top of your spine. So your skull sits on top of your spine like this, and there's a tiny bone there, and that tiny little bone is the intersection of your brow and your crown chakra. And when we perform this energetic maneuver, oh, I hope Zoom isn't going to kick me off. Please don't kick me off. It's doing something weird, guys. If it does something weird, I'm coming back, don't worry. All right, that, but that's all right, we managed to survive. Hold on a sec.
That bone again, because you froze right before.
Just making sure that everyone is muted before I get going. Okay, so when I do that maneuver and the energy fills up, and then I tilt my head up and back, that's this crucial interplay going on. Because on the one hand, oh, are you guys able to hear me okay? Okay, I just wasn't sure. I saw puzzled faces, but I wasn't sure. On the one hand, you have your brow chakra, which is facing in this direction, and then when I tilt my head up, it's now facing up here. And my violet chakra, which was oriented facing to the sky now becomes oriented facing at the 90-degree angle like this. So that's an important energetic maneuver. Again, this is like, I'm like a personal trainer and I am describing, this is the bicep muscle and this is the elbow, and when you move your arm like this is what will happen. None of that actually makes you build your bicep muscle. But learning about it does help you to understand what you're doing when you actually do it. So all of this is preparation for you should actually do this. I'm going to give you all of the do's and don'ts and the always and the nevers in order to guide you through. And I have included, there's a YouTube recording that's part of the level 1 material called Sun Gazing on a Spring Morning. I recorded that back in Woodstock, and it was a perfect morning for sun gazing too. So it's a beautiful practice that, first of all, puts you really in touch with the sun and being aware of when the sun is out, when it's sunny or cloudy, where does it come into your house during the day. And I even set up my activities. Like if I know if the sun is going down at 6:30 and I live on the West Coast now, there's a beautiful place where I can we're close to the health food store in Eureka, where I can park and watch the sun as it's going down. So I know, okay, if I get there at this time, I can park in this nice place and have sun gazing, all right? So I also encourage you, can set up your life so that you catch the optimum amount of light. This matters because right now we are feeding our light bodies. All right. Since 2012, but also previous to that time, we have been accreting light, developing our light bodies, and essentially cultivating our non-physical energy presences for the time when we will have a non-physical world, all right, or when you will have a completely non-physical life. That's coming, in the future. We're in transition, which is also part of that anecdotal story that I was telling when I first came into this body. Didn't understand that this era would be an era of transition, that it was not that I would come in and I would immediately be eating nothing but pure sunlight and we would all transition immediately into this higher dimensional realm. I had to learn to be patient, and so I had to bridge the gap. And first, when I moved into this body, I just ate whatever was tasty and available. I didn't even know about the necessities of nutrition. And it took many years for me to learn what's in food, how does this body respond to what's in food. And that was even before genetically modified food became very prevalent in the regular food available world. And once that happened, then I became very educated about what's in food and what is safe to eat and what isn't safe to eat. So I have had to educate myself about nutrition and safety just in living here, and now I'm extremely choosy about what I choose to ingest. So, okay. So this is two things. This is about food, even though there's a teaching that's all about food, but this is also about the food that is light, that is contained within the sun. And when I do sun gazing, here's how I feel afterwards. I feel alert, satisfied, like if I have, like you've eaten a Snickers bar, you feel satisfied. I feel, at times, I have had the physical sensation of actual nourishment, like when I've been connecting with the sun, and I wasn't trying to make anything happen or manifest anything. I was in a receptive state. And I swear I felt a real substance in my mouth and I swallowed it down. And it reminded me of coconut pudding. That's the best way I can describe it. Like a smooth, creamy, delicious, sweet, good thing. But it's direct neural stimulation. This is what I'm talking about. Your pineal gland. Your pineal gland doesn't have an aperture. Light doesn't go into it like it goes into this eye through a hole, like we're used to. Food goes in here through a hole, right? This is a different way that food comes inside. This is the way our bodies were meant to run. We were meant to run on pure sunlight as clean energy processing machines. So the first thing is you don't look directly at the sun with your flesh eyes. You look at the sun with your non-physical eye. If the camera at the top of my screen is the sun, I focus my brow up there, but I would be looking at the middle of the screen or even down at the bottom of the screen. do it in the early and late part of the day. So that's why I really enjoy going to the ocean. During the late part of the day, the early part, the sun is filtered by more of the layers of the atmosphere. The light is coming in at more of an oblique angle, so it's more palatable is the best way that I can say. It's like soup that isn't boilingly hot. It has been cooled down and it is palatable. And we have to understand this. All the teachings about the chakras being like energetic transformers, that you start at the highest energy state, which is at the source, and then your connection to the source, and then energy has to be reduced so that it doesn't burn out the apparatus. Because if you plugged your computer directly into the power station, it would burn out your computer because it's far too much at once. So if you plugged your mind and your neurology directly into the sun, which is stellar consciousness, it's of the stars, it would blow your mind. You would literally change state from a solid directly to a vapor or a plasma. You would get burned. You would not be okay. So we need to mitigate or reduce in intensity the sunlight before we ingest it. That's why I like to do it filtered through the atmosphere early or late in the day, and also filtered through the trees. So in Woodstock, where I lived, there was a canopy of trees up above my backyard, and I could be out at noon or 2 p.m. and have beautiful filtered sunlight through the trees. And trees aren't dumb, they're intelligent, and when they move, it's not random, they're dancing. So when trees are moving like this, they're doing a dance with the sun. Science recognizes this now, that trees and all of the plants are actually cooperating and collaborating to move their leaves in order to ingest the maximum amount of light possible and share the maximum amount of light with other creatures at lower levels underneath them. So they're not acting to block out everything that no one else can get sun down below. They're actually dancing in partnership. And that dance is a intelligent dance. It follows the harmonic laws or patterns that energy flows in the universe. And it also prevents you from ingesting too much consciousness from the sun too directly. The best times of day to sun gaze, doing it through the filtering of trees. Also, creating a foundation of unconditional love. This means that for many weeks, take time to meditate every day. Take time to sit in non-judgment and create this spinning vortex of energy that is necessary to place the apparatus of your higher faculties upon, all right? And then, at the right time, plant yourself in the sun. And when I say plant, literally you are photosynthesizing. And this is the process of miracle making or manifestation. I held this up before. This is vegetable juice from plants. Here's a beautiful little plant that lives next to me. Damn it.